agenda, we have starting out with the reality of where we are in the current market. We're going to talk through where performance breaks down in terms of opportunities for your website, things to kind of test and look through when it comes to your conversion path. David's going to go through a lot of SEO and AI guidance. I'm going to go through email marketing opportunities, direct booking opportunities. We'll do some more AI conversation, which I know is a really hot topic. And then again, we want to give you practical takeaways to be able to bring to your team, bring to your owners. Hopefully you have some good next steps, and we'll end it with our Q&A. So we will get started here. We know that the last 6 years have really been such a roller coaster in the vacation rental industry, from the historic record-breaking seasons of COVID versus where we stand now, where last summer, even projected for this summer, things are looking a little bit more challenging. So I know on the news, we have just the rising fuel prices when it comes to gas and airline costs. We also have the uncertainty which comes with our political environment too. So even in talking with my clients where I do a monthly meeting, we go through all these types of topics. There is just a lot of, I guess, yeah, the confidence isn't quite there with some of our travelers these days. So between the rising costs of those everyday goods and services, that means that things like travel and taking vacations and going away is maybe put on the back burner because it is a luxury. It is the thing that people cut or, delay. Even if it's maybe a year out, they've just decided that this summer is not going to be the time to travel. But with that too, we also have things that we need to keep in mind when it comes to what people are really looking for in this current environment. So also talking with my clients and sort of the general guidance that I give, the more flexibility that you offer, the more you have a chance to get those bookings across the finish line. So I know that you have a commitment to owners, you might have a commitment to the way that things have routinely gone within your destination, but when you can offer the flexibility to take a shorter stay or to have, less than 7 night requirement, that can go a long way with setting you apart from other options that people are thinking about. The other thing too is that people are just choosing closer destinations. So maybe they are not flying for that dream Hawaiian vacation, but they're going to go somewhere a little bit closer to home within driving distance. Another thing too is just, I know there's so many add-on widgets to browsers and different apps that you can get to watch when prices drop. So people are delaying bookings to kind of keep those budget decisions in mind. And one of the things I'm going to talk about later is an email marketing tool that's a price alert urgency marketing, where we have some built-in opportunities to allow for some email notifications when prices drop. So we will get back to that in a little bit. But yeah, where we stand right now is it is human that people are looking for deals. They're looking for specials. I mean, that's just how we are as a society. We are looking to save. But again, we're trying to give you steps today to look at your own website, look at your own marketing decisions, and find ways to optimize things a little bit more before you have to immediately discount. But it is natural, again, that people are looking for deals. I know when looking at our GA4 reports, we have our specials page tends to be towards the very top of page insights. So it is out there. But when you can also do things like flexible cancellation policies. Sorry, a couple more things there, Megan. Flexible cancellation policies. I know the cancel for any reason is a pretty popular offering these days when it comes to giving people more confidence to see those cancellation policies before they commit to booking. So the more flexible, the more options that you are able to give with your cancellation policy can go a long way too. And just the last thing is the bundled value. So when it comes to the extra incentives that you can offer with your vacations, with your bookings, I have a couple of clients who will offer, or they have the opportunity to get free beach gear. So maybe anywhere from 200 to 250, in terms of free beach gear coming through. But that would be kind of where we stand now. And David's going to lead us into the next section here.
All right. Yeah, we can move on to the next slide. When you head into shoulder season, there is a risk of performance breaking down at all stages of the marketing funnel. So I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with the marketing funnel, but if you're not, that simply refers to how does a guest get to the place where they're ready to book. And so when we're talking about things on the SEO and A front, where we're typically talking about is top to middle of the funnel, unless they've heard of your brand before and they're specifically searching your brand with what's called a navigational intent. So they're looking to find your website, they're already captured, they're ready to go. But as far as capturing the prospective guests during shoulder season, the primary problem is that you are dealing with lower search volumes. And so the areas to pick up prospective guests are going to be from many more lower volume niche types of terms. And so website performance becomes a much bigger factor into whether or not you convert people than it does during peak season. If you're working in peak season and you have a website that doesn't convert very well, you can kind of outdo a poorly converting website if you get enough traffic to it. Certainly, if you have that brand recognition, you can connect enough people to your website and get them there with a lot of promotion. But depending on your market, and the market that I'm highlighting here is with Killington and with ski markets, they have a big shift in who comes. It's dramatic, especially in a market like an East Coast type of a ski market where you have this large ski resort with many things to do, many après ski options, people coming from all over. And then in the summer, the traveler profile shifts. So converting and targeting the right type of people becomes a much higher priority when you're trying to capture people coming from mountain biking or people coming in the fall. So the biggest way that I see people or performance breaking down in my experience is with the UX. When you are ranking number one for a term or you're well known enough, you're typically going to fall somewhere between the top three of the Google results. But when somebody gets to the website, their attention span is very, very low. So sending the right signals, having the properties higher up, making sure that your content is seasonably relevant. You're not pushing all of the results down with a ton of marketing copy. That is a key area during shoulder season that you have to address because you have to capture that larger percentage of the available audience during shoulder season. So let's go over to the next slide. So when you get into shoulder season, there's really two main options that you then have to make a decision about. One is, do you focus on cleaning up your site and preparing for your peak season? Or do you focus on being a little bit more aggressive and trying some new things with your search strategy? So those two different choices are called maintenance mode and an SEO campaign. And we'll get into those options in a second, but the big thing that you have to do, regardless of whether or not you are choosing maintenance mode or campaign mode, is making sure that your website and your converting landing pages, so those are your category pages, tailored to the shoulder season guest. You have the appropriate photos updated. You have the appropriate categories highlighted on the home page. You have your meta descriptions tailored, and you're focusing the inventory that's the most relevant to the shoulder season guest. If I'm going to a ski destination, but I'm going during shoulder season and I'm going there for mountain biking or for some other outdoor type of activity, ski in, ski out should not be the main property category that you're featuring on a homepage or in your navigation dropdown. Unless you're specifically doing that to target peak season, that's going to cut into the available promotional space on your website and potentially hurt you in capturing people who are going to be booking during those summer months. So let's go over to the next slide. So beyond that, we have this choice between going into maintenance mode and into campaign mode. Maintenance mode is where historically Bluetent has done during shoulder season on the SEO front, and it's where most sites I think would be best served. What I mean by maintenance mode is you are taking the opportunity to make sure that all of the content on your website is up to date and you are focusing on you're focusing on maintaining ranking. So you're not doing anything too aggressive, but you are just making sure that your site is crawlable, that the right pages are up to date, that people are finding the types of rentals they're looking for, and that the supporting content is highlighting things to the shoulder season guest without diluting things heading into peak season. So the things that you will typically do during maintenance mode is you'll audit your website, you'll look for out of date pages, you'll get rid of those, you'll make sure that all of your internal linking and your navigation is up to date, and you'll make sure that you are still targeting the right keywords. Individual keywords, they tend to shift in terms of their volumes or which one is the right phrasing. So mixing that up a bit can help, but it is a very safe type of strategy. With an aggressive approach, like going into doing a campaign mode, there is a ton of risk involved depending on how aggressive that you want to be. And if we go into the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about that. So an SEO campaign can be run at any type of year, at any time of year. A campaign largely just consists of a concentrated effort to address one or more areas of SEO or AEO impact. So what I'm talking about is, let's say if you're just using the example of the ski destination again, and you don't have a very large up-to-date mountain biking section. Most of your stuff is rightly targeted towards skiers. So an SEO campaign strategy could be centered around building a pillar page of best places to mountain bike in Killington, Vermont. When you are developing a campaign like that, you can't just put a page out there and expect it to rank. There's a lot of other factors that you have to plan into that. You have to build in sub pages to transfer a lot of SEO link equity to that. You have to think about where you might want to promote this page. You have to think about the keywords. So it requires a lot of time and effort that could be spent toward the fundamentals or could be spent on tackling things that are a little bit more technical. So there's a lot more of a trade-off that's involved with that. And anytime that you make major changes to your content on the website, there is somewhat of a risk of your rankings or your appearances fluctuating. But the advantage that you get with an SEO campaign is that you may be able to go after travelers who might not normally be able to discover your site. You may focus on keywords that are targeted less on a national basis, as is fairly typical, but you're going after a feeder market. So you have the opportunity to do research about people who are within 2 hours, 90 minutes, 45 minutes drive and go after them specifically rather than focusing on an effort to attract people more broadly. So a campaign example is formatted something like this, and you don't have to format it in exactly this type of plan. But the way that we're starting to do this here at Bluetent is noting what the objective is. So looking at targeting one specific part of the booking funnel. So that would be the view item in Google Analytics. We notice that a lot of people are coming to their site, our site, but not a lot of properties are being viewed. So we want to increase those property page views by 15% versus year over year. And typically you would do this over a 90-day span if you're targeting for a quarterly basis. So as we head into quarter 3 in July, you'd say, okay, versus July through September 2025. Your key results then would be what is the impact of the plan or the actions that you're looking to take with your SEO or your A efforts. So that includes things like I need to move to the top of the search results on a brand new topic. I need to get some more branded mentions inside of ChatGPT because we're not really showing up there. I need to get people to the landing page and directly connect them over to the pet-friendly rentals that we have available in our inventory. And then the tactics. So the stuff that you probably hear a lot about, just reading blogs or hearing case studies, this is where those come into play. You orient them around those specific tailored goals. It would be things like writing blogs that go deep into a topic and then linking those blogs directly to the main page that you want to appear in search results. You want to publish your properties on other channels. There's a little bit of an overlap with organic social and with local listings management. All of these things oriented in a campaign is about making trade-offs. Who are you going after? And where are you choosing not to focus the priority for this channel at this time? And you can run it at any point. You can run a campaign at any point in time, but if you're doing it during the shoulder season, the typical trade-off is I'm not doing a lot of the basic site maintenance that I would normally get to, and we may have to deal with that cleanup at some later point in time. We can move to the next slide. So, a couple of things I wanted to focus on here as just some ideas as you're thinking about your SEO AEO search strategy. Part of this is the one thing I want to make sure that we all, as being in the short-term rental industry, understand is that SEO and AEO are part of the same equation. So it's not a good practice to think of them as wholly separate entities, but the AI is being served up on traditional search results as well as in AI mode, ChatGPT, and elsewhere. So part of the advantage of doing a maintenance mode at least once every 2 to 4 years is to make sure that your site is crawlable and that the AI can use those search results to power your results. If you're looking at this slide and you see the example here, this is something that I have to clean up a lot. There is an old category page that doesn't have any properties on it anymore. They're not going after that inventory, and we need to make sure that it doesn't float out there, that we clean that up. The other thing that is important as you're considering these types of strategies is thinking about it when, if you're going into campaign mode, being very specific about what you want your marketing channel to do versus what you want your campaign to do. Campaigns can be successful or they can be not successful. Part of the advantage of doing a campaign mode is to experiment and find out what works for you. And so running successive campaigns, trying it year after year, doing different types of strategies allow you to get data specific to your inventory and make some better calculated decisions versus, putting all of your eggs in one basket and rolling up everything into an overall channel strategy. If you have a goal for your specific marketing channels, I would set those on an annual basis or be very clear about the distinction is what are we going to do in this organic search campaign versus what do we want to accomplish on organic search results overall. And then we can move over to the next slide. So a couple of things, and I know we're going a little bit deeper on this topic, but how this works in practice, and this is how I put my strategies together, is I work backwards from the money and where I want to grow revenue and where I want to grow bookings. So if I am looking at the data, and what you're looking at here is Google Analytics, you're seeing the basic booking funnel report. You want to work backwards from where you see the problem, and then you experiment with the different tactics from there. So you look at where users are dropping off, you look at it versus prior year, you see different things that are perhaps giving you concern, and then you start to think of different ideas and put them together toward a concentrated effort. It's much better to be focused with an SEO campaign, so focusing on a specific segment of inventory rather than trying to go too broad unless you have the budget or the resources to do it. And it's also best practice to focus on a campaign on like a 3 month basis. So SEO, even they tend to take longer to pan out in the search results. So setting goals far enough in the future allows you to properly set expectations with yourself, with your owners, and with your marketing agency. And then if you're looking for more short-term performance, as Chelsea's going to discuss with some of the other channels, you can leverage those other marketing channels to drive more of those short-term results inside of the shoulder season.
Thanks, David. I'm going to talk about a couple of opportunities within our email marketing program, which is one of my favorite channels. I know even just talking to Megan and the team ahead of time, we were saying that email is a really incredible tool, especially because these types of things can just work 24/7. You don't have to lift a finger once they're set up. They all work in the background. So I'm going to first talk about the booking abandonment, which is shown as an example right here on the screen. So booking abandonment is very similar to your everyday cart abandonment when it comes to things like you put a product in a cart, but you don't actually go through with the booking. So we have a similar opportunity here within our Bluetent, websites that we can send a triggered reminder after somebody starts to book. So they get to step one of the checkout process. We collect their name, their email address, but something distracts them. They have to exit the process. But within usually a 3 to 4 hour window, we get back in front of them through an automated email that reminds them that they were, about to complete their reservation. Here's the dates that you chose. Here's the property. And, hopefully they they go forward to end up booking. We also have something that just in case within that window, someone else booked it, we have a property unavailable. So we will offer some similar options or just, any ways to get back to the website to continue searching. This is one of the most successful campaigns within our program. So just sharing some stats from one of our clients who's been doing this for about 5 years now. They have sent over 15,000 emails alone just from booking abandonment. With that, the open rate is 59% and the click-through rate is 16%. So that means that over half of those emails have been opened, which is a good sign that there was serious intention that someone truly was ready to book, but something happened where it was interrupted and we want to get back in front of them. So, and year to date with this particular set of data that I'm sharing and one of our clients, they have received almost 40 bookings alone just from booking abandonment. So these emails have been triggered to go out on their own. They get back in front of the potential guest. And yeah, we've had almost 40 bookings that can be attributed just from this particular campaign. The other type of opportunity is the booking anniversary. So say that I booked a property in July of 2025, somewhere of a summer vacation that I went. I have not rebooked with that same company. So as we're approaching June of 2026, about 12 months later, they're going to get an email inviting them back to the destination. It's just a nice kind of personalized email. We hope you had a wonderful stay last year. We want to invite you back. Maybe even consider offering some type of 5% repeat guest promo code or some type of gift to rebook so that you can hopefully get some of your repeat guests back to your destination for the summer or for the rest of the year. And then we also have what we call our enhanced sharing tools. So anywhere on the property page or with the search results, we have a share feature where you can click favorites, you can come up with a trip itinerary, you can basically just compile your preferred properties into some type of environment where you then send an email to your traveling party. So if you're trying to coordinate with your spouse or a friend or whoever your traveling group is, you can send that personalized email with a nice recap of exactly what properties you're interested in, what your stay dates are. And we know that these work because we have tracking on all of our campaigns. So we can go back to GA4 and say, this particular set of campaign produced X amount of results. So the email marketing does provide a lot of cool opportunity, again, without having to lift a finger once everything's set up. It works really well. And the next slide is, okay, you've sent all the traffic to the website. So now you want to look at your direct booking opportunities. This is the breakdown of what a quality property page looks like, which really is like the bread and butter of your website. We want to focus on the photography as our first impression. So we know that we all move quickly. We are constantly being, notified on our phones and through our chat systems throughout the day. So if someone is searching on your website, we want them to be hopefully immediately impressed with the property that they're looking at. So photography is the basis of that, where you want to be using bright photos that are professionally taken. They have really good angles. They show off the entire home. Usually we want to start with the exterior, the living spaces, the kitchen, the views, then go more into like the bedroom breakdown, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. But you just want to make sure that the photos that you are showing on these properties help to develop that trust so that when the person arrives to their booking, their much anticipated vacation, there are no surprises as to something that was not accurate within the photography. So Yes, I would definitely advise to make sure your photography is up to par and hopefully will serve to get someone's interest fairly quickly. And then something that I feel is in a kind of a transformative state right now is the property descriptions, where we know, and even like David was saying, you don't want to have a lot of text within property descriptions, especially when you think about mobile considerations and someone has to just endlessly scroll to get through to the other sections of the property detail page. But one thing that we want to do is, well, we want to create sections so that it makes it easier to scan. Like maybe there's something that stands out right away that maybe wouldn't be a good fit for that particular guest. Or on the opposite end, hopefully, maybe there is something that's really special about it. And with that too, we want to develop an emotional tone. So having the type of connection in terms of the verbiage that you're using to allow somebody to picture themselves at that property, like being as descriptive as possible, but again, allowing that sort of envision factor to come into play. So, yeah, property descriptions are also just as important as photography to make sure that you are really giving your best shot at selling that particular unit. And then this example here has a couple of takeaways for some add-ons that we can do on our websites. So the featured amenities that come with the iconography, I know it's a little bit tiny here, but it's under the featured amenities section where you have things like dog friendly, linens included, private pool. You just get that really quick glance and a visual at what those really most popular amenities are that people are looking for. So that's a really nice touch to add some differentiation to your property listings. And there's also a couple of urgency marketing tools. So this right here, right above the search calendar, has a count for the number of people who have viewed the property in the past 24 hours. So kind of like that anticipation you get if you're looking for airline tickets and there's like 3 seats left. You want to have that sort of urgency that goes into the desire to hopefully proceed with an inquiry or even a booking based on that count. We also have price alert tools, which come with our email marketing program opportunities. You have a price change alert, which, say, for example, you have found the best property you want to stay in, but it's just a little bit over budget right now. If that price eventually falls, you can put in a little email inquiry here to say, email me when it's this amount, and then that guest is going to get that triggered email to be reminded, like, hey, this particular property is now available. Same thing with the cancellation notification, which is probably the most popular out of the 3 options here, where again, you have found your dream property, but it is not available for the week that you want. So you can set up that cancellation notification to alert someone when the property becomes available. We also have a booking reminder. So for whatever reason, if someone's just not ready to book in the particular moment, they can get a reminder within, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever their setting is to be reminded to book. We have, again, UTM tracking on all of this to allow for RGA4 reports and to look at what traffic came through and what was attributed between sessions, conversions, booking data from all of those email options there. And then we also have one more thing, just the FAQ section, which is becoming even more popular with especially the rise of AI opportunities and visibility. So within the property page itself, you can do a frequently asked questions, like accordion style section, whether it's isolated or unique to the property itself, like how many parking spaces does this property have? Or what is the coffee maker that's, in the kitchen, Keurig, or is it more of a traditional coffee pot? Whatever the case is, whatever those really common or popular questions are, you can add those directly to an FAQ style section of your property page. Or you can also do it globally, where if there's just some common questions about any property, that's an option too to have a global FAQ. Next slide. And now, yeah, David's going to get
Yes.
the role of AI.
Yes. So we get a lot of questions about how should AI be used and what role does it play in helping to get marketing efforts going. And I think that's especially important as many places prepare for their shoulder seasons, or even during peak season, you're trying to get you're trying to get more bookings for stuff that is currently in season. The number one pro tip that I have is not to throw your prompt or to throw your question just into Chat GPT. There are better and more sophisticated ways to use AI to further your marketing efforts. Chelsea and I both use it on a daily basis to help us within our workflows. But the one mistake that I see property managers doing when they put stuff into ChatGPT, or then when they want to use AI, is they put in a prompt. It's typically, we put in a prompt, we put in a property URL, and the prompt usually goes something to the effect of, "Tell me what's wrong with my property. How can I get it more search visibility?" And ChatGPT or your LLM of choice puts out these very sophisticated and detailed looking recommendations. Then what will happen is that a client will come to us and I'll look through it. And the typical issue that I see is that the prompt is trained on generic SEO recommendations, and it's pulling from best practices from across the web, which are good, but it's not specific to your property URL. In particular, when you throw something into Chat GPT without doing any training or anything custom for your business, what it tends to do is it tends to point out things that you may already be doing as recommendations. So, case in point, we'll see recommendations all the time where it says you should make a website page dedicated to pet friendly rentals, and there's already a pet friendly rental page on the website. So if you're going to do that, and if you're going to use AI, and you specifically want it to train and identify issues with property pages, there are better ways to go about doing that. And so if we head into the next slide, I can tell you about a little bit more details on the faux pas. So AI is a tool, and it is best used when you do a paid version of it. There's a great publication called Growth Memo by a guy named Kevin Indig. He writes for Search Engine Journal, and he's done multiple studies on the differences between the free and paid versions of ChatGPT. And the one recommendation I have is for if you're going to be using something like that, use the paid version, because you're going to be getting much more sophisticated responses, and you have the ability to take advantage of those paid features so that you get recommendations that are more specific to your business. In particular, if you use a tool like Claude, that tool comes with additional skills and agent capabilities, which you can use to train on things that are specific to your business. Each LLM has different strengths and weaknesses. We won't be able to go through each one of those today, but using a paid LLM of choice that you train specifically on your business, and you use that as a companion while still remaining in the driver's seat, is going to be the best way to set yourself up for success on an AI, using AI to help further your marketing. So if we move on to the next slide, here's how I use it in my marketing effort. SEO is a spreadsheet business. In the past, my brother and I, who does not work in SEO but is an Excel whiz, he and I have joked about setting up a spreadsheet business before. And that spreadsheet business is kind of what I do day to day. We use Excel for analysis. We use Excel for keeping track of our work. We do it for running website crawls. And the Copilot companion inside of Excel has sped up my work like 10 times. All of us use some version of Excel, and if it's not Excel, it's Google Sheets. No hate against Google Sheets. But using that companion to speed things up, to create custom formulas, and to repeat redundant processes will help you process large amounts of data, or even help you out in some of your audits. I've used Copilot recently in two different ways. One is I used Copilot to redo our keyword research process, specifically in how we present initial keyword research to clients, so we make better use out of the S tool. And the second way that I've used it fairly recently is I used it to create custom formulas and macros to help with our property URL optimizations. If you are on a BizCore site, you know that to update those property URLs, you go into the unit page, you go to settings and SEO, and it's got that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 under file name. Well, we can create what our replacement for that is in one go with this new spreadsheet, and then all we have to do is copy and paste, which saves a lot of time. The next level that I would say that is a step up from that is speeding up your Googling and fact finding by using either ChatGPT Atlas or side by side AI mode and the Ask Gemini feature within Chrome. ChatGPT came out with this feature first in its Atlas browser, and then Google copied it, and more people are going to end up using it because it's Google and everybody already has Chrome. I specifically use it because when I'm looking to find information about how to better use my tools. And I also use the Ask Gemini feature to help me fact check when I am looking at a piece of copy, specifically when we're looking at a property category page. It's not the best at finding the facts, and you can't completely outsource it yet, but what you can do is it helps you find fact claims on a page and know which things you have to check before you publish something. And that has helped with our process tremendously. We're working on several sites right now where we're updating content on those property category pages, and having that tool as a resource is a game changer. Level three is more of the advanced version, and that's when you get into using tools like Claude Code or Cursor. And for us, it helps us to pull data and do analysis at a much larger scale and in a format that we can't get within our tools. We use tools like HRS and SEMrush. They have lots of really great data for us to use, but that's not always consumable for a client. It's data. We want to be able to say things like, what are our market trends in Durango? What are our market trends within Sedona? And being able to take all that data, consume it, process it, sometimes even put it out into a chart is super helpful. So depending on your level of comfort and your willingness to spend and experiment with it, there are applications for using AI, whether you're trying to speed up a process or whether you're trying to do some data. But if you use it as a companion to what you're doing rather as a wholesale replacement for something, it can be a game changer and help you do some much better marketing and much more strategic marketing.
So we've come to the point in the webinar where we want to give you practical takeaways for some next steps. We know we've basically headed into the summer season, so it's about to get very busy and you all have a lot of responsibilities. So the goal of these next couple of slides is just to have some quicker takeaways, some things to think about with your team afterwards. And of course, and how we can help here to meet those goals that you guys are looking for. So next slide here, Megan. The first one is the search and user experience. I know that we look at the websites every single day. We're troubleshooting something or we're looking something up, but what we want to try to do is put ourselves in the shoes of a guest, where maybe even if you're not doing it directly, ask a family member, ask a friend to go on your website and come up with sort of this dream vacation scenario. Use the website like you're a guest, put in your dates, put in your filters, be specific as to what you're looking for, and see what the usability is like. Is there some type of hang up that is causing maybe the funnel to be a little bit broken? Hopefully not, but there's, some opportunities that might come out from just seeing things from a different perspective. What you also want to do is make sure you're prioritizing your high demand amenities, your most popular ones. I have just a couple here from my East Coast clients who I primarily work with. Pet friendly is such a popular offering now on vacation rentals, private pools, community pools, oceanfront, for example. So in this example here, this is a search result teaser. We have directly, an icon that shows the dog print. So this is a pet friendly home, also a flexible stay property. And then in this case too, we have the heart, which you can favorite directly, get that favorite list to grow. But yeah, just keep in mind the different types of visuals that you can put onto the website to help with immediate excitement when it comes to looking at properties and hopefully finding the best one. You also just want to make sure too that your navigation, as David was saying earlier, has all of these high demand landing pages really visible so that you're not making anyone search for that pet friendly landing page. It's right there within the nav that people can get to it easily. Same thing too with your homepage call outs, like maybe do an audit of the rows of three, like the three, the six, maybe even up to 9 different call outs that you can have on your homepage, and rotate those to make sure that you are directing people to the most popular offerings. You also just want to make sure that your search results are accurate. So I know sometimes things will get hung up in the software and you need to just, double check the availability for a particular week. Just make sure that there's nothing that is preventing a property from showing as available and allowing it to get booked successfully. The next slide. And with that too, on the mobile optimization side, I mean, we have been using our phones for everything now in terms of searching, purchasing, just everyday, all day use. So make sure that when you are testing, you are using your phone to pull up your website, go through that search criteria, make sure that everything is loading as expected, especially too when it comes to the buttons to tap. In this example, you can see how the search rentals is nice and clear. You want to be able to tap that right away and, go on to look at your search results, but just do some routine testing of that mobile site just to make sure that everything is working as expected. And that also includes too that making sure your images are loading quickly. There are ways to test and see if there's opportunities to condense your images and kind of work with the speed so that nothing is getting hung up when it comes to performance on a mobile level. Just test the full booking experience too when it comes to that search process, finding a property that you want to stay in for your vacation, and then even going through the checkout process, which is probably the most important to make sure, again, that there's no issue with even selecting travel insurance options or some add-ons or getting to that final step where you are submitting the request to book. Next slide, please. So we talked about earlier the property page optimization and how the property, of course, is really the bread and butter of your website, how it maintains a majority of your content. So you do want to have those featured amenities with the iconography. You want to have those skimmable highlights, whether that's in a bulleted format or sectioned out. Whatever it is that makes it really easy to read is a way to modify or start thinking about property description edits. But this is probably my favorite tip. So I hope that as you kind of walk away from this webinar, you'll think about this in a different perspective. You want to include why guests love the location or even why they love the property. Say, for example, you are staying in a beach condo and there's dining or an ice cream shop that's just within a 5 minutes walk. This means you don't have to load everybody up in the car. You can just take maybe a nice evening walk to go get an evening dessert and yeah, basically highlight that as a perk of something that's within walkable distance to your property you're staying in. Another thing to think about too is the quiet versus busy. So maybe someone is really looking for a quiet location. They want the peace, the tranquility that comes with just their own private space, or they want to stay in a busier area. They like the nightlife. They want to be able to walk to these places. So when you point that out really clearly within your property description, that's kind of that emotional, resonating with the guests where you can try to get them that way versus just like listing out, different specs about the property, but why they actually love it is a good takeaway. And just the general proximity to attractions. If it's close to something popular that, again, you can walk to it or it's a short drive away, that will help it stand out as something of interest. And this next one is probably very obvious, but you want to make sure that your photo gallery has your best images first, kind of like we talked about a little earlier. I had a client recently who was super honest mistake, but the teaser or the very first opening photo was of the washer and dryer. So I said, "Oh no, we want to correct that. We want to make sure that the exterior of the property is what is kicking off the photo gallery." So that can happen, and you just want to make sure that you are doing that routine maintenance and routine auditing of your photos. And again, too, with the urgency tool opportunities, with the price alert changes, cancellation notifications, those booking reminders, that trio of tools does work really well to also just work behind the scenes to get back in front of people who have indicated interest and they want to get updates when something happens. And next slide. Review management. This is something that we could probably spend an entire webinar on. So I'm just going to quickly scratch the surface of why it's important to make sure you are reaching out to your guests after they depart. This should just be a common standard default of, any property manager, but we have a couple options too when it comes to review feedback. And you want to make sure that you are asking, like, how was your stay? Hopefully they had a great time. They're going to take a few minutes to give you that feedback. Or something happened, something broke, perhaps they weren't happy with the response time. You just want to know that kind of private feedback. But it is important to collect reviews to build that trust, especially when your potential guests are doing research on these units, these properties, even things like Google My Business, where they're looking up, brand impressions. They want to know, what was the stay like with this particular company. And you also want to make sure you respond to them. I know that it's definitely something that can feel like another thing on the to-do list, but to acknowledge someone for taking the time to leave a review, hopefully it's constructive feedback if there is something to be addressed, but that goes a long way because it is public facing to show the current guest and the potential guest that, you took the time to acknowledge someone's feedback. And yeah, just make sure that you kind of review your post-departure communication and just ask for those reviews. The next slide. The final slide actually is just a general book direct reminder that yes, we do want to get bookings from any source that we can, but our intention here, especially with our Inhabit Bluetent biz marketing, is to have that book direct initiative where we are providing a book direct landing page. Why should you book with us? List out those benefits. What are you getting that you're not getting on the OTAs? Because there are definitely some good value propositions, the extra hundreds of dollars that you can save when you're not paying for those third-party fees, the local support, the best rates, that kind of thing. So this is just a snippet of the of a book direct landing page, a little section there that I just came up with. But I would definitely advise, especially if you participate in the annual book direct holiday every February, that you want to have a presence of the importance of booking direct through your website. And there is that annual holiday, and there's also just those routine reminders that many clients do throughout the year, kind of as an ongoing annual reminder that between your email marketing all the way down to your SEO, you want to encourage the book direct. So keep that in mind too, as you are putting your marketing campaigns together, to always go directly to the local source.
If you would like a more detailed free strategy session, you can raise your hand, and I'll also launch a little poll question here while we do any Q&As. But again, really appreciate your time, and we look forward to reaching out to you. So we're going to do Q&As now. One, David answered, it was, can we expect reduced organic search traffic?
Yeah, I'll speak to that one a little bit. So yes, on the traffic front. Now, numbers will vary, but there is a really good study that I put out on my LinkedIn from Ahrefs, which is a company that we use one of their tools. And they did, this wasn't specific to STR, but they were talking about how the AI overview portion have cut dramatically into click-through rates. So a lot of those more informational intent type of pages like blogs, landing pages, traffic to that is declining because people are staying on Google or within the LLM rather than going over to the site. So the usefulness of those pages is more for engagement and keeping people in the planning mode on your site rather than for attracting people from organic search. When it comes to conversions, bookings, and revenue, it really depends. So depends. The two factors I want to highlight are how dependent is your website on like informational intent, so traffic going to web pages, and then the second, or going to blogs and more informational rather than those like commercial intent pages. And then the second is how well does your website do at converting the existing traffic? So if you get a lot of traffic coming because of your brand name and your recognition, you're not necessarily going to see a drop off. I've got one client who has seen a dramatic drop off in traffic, but a year over year increase in bookings because they had a really great blog that had a number one ranking. It was driving a ton of traffic to the site, but once Google started taking that traffic away from them, a lot of those people were just reading the article. They weren't necessarily coming over to buy. So it really just depends on as far as like the bottom line, it really just depends. And that's where I would recommend, like I was talking about earlier, start with the money, start where people are booking and work backward, because then you will discover like what segment of that traffic is really matters. And then you'll be able to do a much better comparison as far as bottom line impact than just doing traffic overall. There was one question that I said I'd answer live in the Q&A. It said, what are local listings? That's just Google Business Profile, Yelp, the like TripAdvisor. That's a local listing. It's different than a social media network where it's more geared toward putting up a business profile.
Does Bluetent have, as a part of their basic website package, the iconography? I can never say that word. Or is this a custom website?
That would be for the pro custom websites that you can do the iconography.
Does the price alert feature a part of the website or is that custom?
Those would have to be added, but we would just want to double check whatever platform they're using and then what kind of relationship they already have with the email marketing program. So we can definitely follow up on getting a more defined answer for that.